I see. Hell yeah.
Freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah,
yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree when a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now
hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, President of UIC, and I'm very happy to be here today to speak with you about another important topic in terms of life here in Jamaica and many of the challenges that we're faced with. I hope you enjoyed last night's show with the First Lady. I certainly enjoyed it, watching from behind the scenes. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. But tonight we have a very serious matter to look at, very, very important matter to look at. And I hope that at the end of it, we can all be aligned as to the solution and what we can do to fix it. And there are some things we can do to fix it. Right now, we see that the government of Jamaica is, at least in my opinion, it's exporting slave labor. So in this episode of UIC Liberty TV, I will speak with a Canadian farm worker in a tell-all interview about his time as a victim of the government's farm work program. You will see how they are exporting and exploiting our people by forcing them into a modern form of slavery on the Colonial Masters plantation. This scam is subtle, it's crippling, and it's deadly. This will be a two-part exclusive insider story to learn more about this scam and how the UIC will fix the problem when we are elected. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll never ever miss an episode of UIC Liberty TV. Now, let me take a few minutes to actually welcome our friends who are always early and on time. So let me see who is early today. JMH, the number one. Good night to you as well. And good night to you, Lion Rule the Jungle. Good to see you on. And yes, it was a great show last night. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. And you enjoyed it too, JMH. Good to see that. Nezook, I think that's how you pronounce your name. Nezook Komodo. Give thanks for life, blessed love to you and your family, and the very same to you as well. Thank you so much. Alan Scott, good to see you on as well. And thank you so much for acknowledging that Mrs. Patterson is the new boss lady. Yes, she has been the boss for some time now. Sonia Mignot, good to see you on as well. Good evening to you. JMH, again. Supreme TV, good to see you on. And I love those comments that you all give from time to time. You might not always agree with everything that we say here, but you're always so respectful and so kind in pointing out anything that you think should be considered. Welcome all uniters, all of you. Just a real pleasure to be on with you tonight. Big up everyone. Big up Cardell. Big up Iona Barrett. Big up Chat Truth Vibes. Blessings to you as well. Mrs. Patterson right now as we speak is busy working on placards for our September 22nd Walk for Good Governance now, which will take place starting at we're going to start now Ward Theatre, and we're going to move from Ward Theatre to Heroes Circle to Emancipation Park all the way to Halfway Tree Square, where I will do a big presentation on a major policy issue, which would help the Jamaican people immensely if the government were to immediately implement that policy proposal. So look forward to that. If you are here in Jamaica, please come out and join us. If you are not in Jamaica, please join us online live. We will be carrying this event live, so all of you can participate from where you are in the diaspora. But very importantly, tell your family and your friends to come out in their numbers. Our target, I'm putting my neck on the block here, our target is 5,000 Jamaicans live in the street of Kingston, walking, marching, demanding good governance now in Jamaica. So every one of we must be involved. Please donate, donate, donate. Every dollar counts. We need the money to be able to mobilize people, get people out, and to get all the things we need in place. So go to our website, uicjamaica.com, and donate today. Reach us on our numbers, 2930812 or 4716598, so that you can participate one way or another. So let's get right into our program for tonight. The government runs a farm work program. It's called the Canadian Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program, which was established in 1966, 4 years after independence, with the recruitment of 264 workers from Jamaica. The success of this initial venture saw the program being extended to two other Caribbean countries. Over the next few years, the program continued to grow steadily, and in 1976, workers from 2 additional countries were allowed to participate, which resulted in all English-speaking Caribbean countries and Mexico being participants on the program. The success of the program in Ontario led to its rapid expansion to other provinces, namely Quebec, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and British Columbia. The Jamaican Liaison Service, JLS, is the agency established by the Ministry of Labour under the Memorandum of Understanding between the Federal Government of Canada and the Government of Jamaica, charged with responsibility of administering the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program in Canada. Here's what the agency says about itself. In executing this responsibility, our mandate is to work in close association with all federal, provincial, and NGOs to facilitate the general welfare of all agricultural workers from Jamaica to Canada. Did you hear that? The general welfare. I continue to read what they had to say. This service is also involved with recruitment of skilled and unskilled workers under the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. The service provided is not limited to Ontario, as we seek opportunities to serve other provinces with quality workers and a reliable workforce wherever the need arises. Yes, we're not limited to agricultural sector, but in addition, we provide workers both in the skilled and unskilled sectors of any industry. So again, that is the Jamaica government speaking through the Jamaica Liaison Service, Liaison, Liaison Service. So they're in the business of providing for the Canadian labor force. They're particularly working to make sure they fill any need that exists in the Canadian program by providing a reliable workforce. I hate that word, workforce. Anyways, let's look at the video now from Jamaican farm workers as they headed to Canada during the COVID cycle.
We're here at Manly International Airport because this is another in the series of seasonal agricultural worker program flights. This has been going on for at least 52, 53 years, where Canada collaborates with the Ministry of Labour, with the Government of Jamaica, to ensure that Canadian farms can have the skilled labour that they need to put food on our tables, but also it's an important source of remittances and an injection into the local economy for Jamaicans. This year, of course, is a special year because of the impacts of COVID-19 coronavirus, and rest assured that all precautions have been taken to make sure that the farm workers are being taken care of. You can see in the airport that they're doing their physical distancing, that they're all wearing their masks, which they'll wear on the flight as well. They've reduced the number of farm workers per bunkhouse when they do arrive. Upon arrival, they're in 14 days of quarantine. All sorts of measures are being taken to make sure that not only the farm workers are staying safe, but also the farms and the Canadian colleagues that they'll be working with. You know, this being a global pandemic, each country is managing in their own way. We're all working towards the same objective, which is flatten the curve. Jamaica has been impressive in the leadership and being able to stay ahead of that curve, but we know that there are difficult and uncertain challenges. Canada too has put in place all the safety measures required to ensure that Canadians can do their part. But it is such uncertain times and such a good degree of unpredictability.
Okay, so if you notice, our government, which was locking down small businesses and locking down Jamaicans and even locking down our farming operations, which would later cause food shortages from a local standpoint and put us in a precarious position with global food shortages because our farmers were not allowed to produce, was busy packing up Jamaicans and sending them off during what they classified as a dangerous pandemic. So dangerous that they needed to lock down Jamaicans. But they had no problem at all shipping off Jamaican laborers as farm workers to Canada in the midst of a cold and dangerous condition. Now, in a pandemic situation, a cold environment is quite dangerous, as well as a crammed environment. And as you're going to see later on, these farm workers or laborers are kept in very close quarters and under minimal supervision. But they told us that this was a very dangerous situation, and we needed to be social distanced as much as possible. And they needed to lock down our economy to save lives and save livelihoods. But they had no problem shipping off our poor laborers to go work in Canada. Now, since this farm work program came into being, it has been plagued with many problems over the years. But the government and the participating farmers, the Colonial Masters who run these farms, have denied the claims of workers. Let's look at what one such denial.
A call for change from a group of unnamed Jamaican migrant farm workers in Niagara, penning an open letter to Jamaica's Minister of Labour, who was visiting farms in the region. As it currently stands, the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program is systemic slavery. We are robots to them. They don't care about us. Released through the advocacy group Migrant Workers Alliance for Change, it alleges overcrowded housing, problems with rats, and exposure to pesticides without proper protection, along with allegations of threatening or intimidating behavior by employers. They want the Jamaican and Canadian governments to act, but say they are too afraid of reprisal to speak against their employers publicly.
The entire system is entirely based on exploitation and abuse, and significant changes need to be made immediately.
Today, the federal ministry that oversees the Foreign Temporary Farm Workers Program is calling the allegations inhumane and violations of the rules, saying it is communicating with Ontario's Ministry of Labour, which says its investigation is ongoing. CHCH News reached out to both farms named in the letter. One got back to us calling the allegations completely false.
I was perplexed and surprised to see third world living conditions in Canada.
Father Antonio Ilias works closely with migrant workers in Niagara and says he's seen problems with housing and worker treatment at some farms, but not all. He says the bigger problem is the program's design.
The power structure is very uneven,
which he says keeps workers from speaking up about problems, afraid of a potential reprisal.
If they say something, they will no longer be requested for the next season.
I'm not going to address the allegations one at a time.
Ken Forth is a Hamilton farmer who employs migrant workers and is part of the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. He says there are multiple levels of oversight and inspection action by different levels of government to ensure conditions are good.
It's not slave labor. These guys, we have to comply to the Employment Standards Act and all those things. They're covered by workman's compensation. It's just a really good program that unfortunately somebody wants to ridicule. And why do they want to do that? Because they want to unionize them, and in simple terms, they want their money.
The Growers Association says the program is vital for the food supply, as few Canadians want to work these types of jobs. Matt Ingram, CHCH News, Hamilton.
Okay, so there you see it. The farm worker, well, the farmer, one of the farmers, an example of one of the farmers, vehemently denies the allegations and so on. But some farm workers are actually speaking out, and even though they may be victimized or punished for telling us what they're going through, some are speaking out. Let's listen.
Jamaican farm workers are speaking out about the conditions that they have to deal with on some farms in Canada. Now, the Labour Minister says he toured a number of the farms and there's no basis for the concerns. A little later in the program, we'll hear from attorney Shane Martinez as well as activist Chris Ramsarouk. They work with migrant farm workers. First, though, we left Kingston to talk to two men who've been on the program, and they asked us to protect their identities, so you're not going to hear their names or even where we went to meet them. The first man you'll hear from says he left the program in 2017 and that the problems now being spoken about go back years.
We used to work from Sunday to Sunday sometimes, until the boss sometimes cut the hours. You're supposed to get like 40 hours per week. They will have the work in the greenhouse, and yet they say you can't go to work, so you got to stay by the bunkhouse, and yet the work is there. They say it wasn't nice there, and you see, like on holidays, you got to work on holidays. They say for the same pay. Meanwhile, only you as the black workers in there and working. Meanwhile, the other people, they are not at work, and you get the same money. I don't think that was right.
When you say that sometimes you had to work Sunday to Sunday.
Sunday to Sunday.
You mean 7 days?
7 days.
With no break, no rest day?
Sometimes you get breaks until one time. I don't know what happened, but the boss, she was a woman. She take away the break time. She want to say it's her place and nobody can tell her what to do there. One day, I after she take away the breaks, I said to the guys.
So 1 second, let me make sure I understand. So when you say the breaks, first of all, we're talking about like a working day.
Yeah.
So how long is one working day?
One working day, I would say sometimes we go from 7 to 5 or 6. It all depends. We work from 7 to 5, sometimes from 7 to 6 in the evening. It all depends on how they want the work to done.
And what is the kind of work you were doing?
Like we work in tomatoes, yes. So we got to plant, like when we used to we go up in January. The time is very cold. Let me tell you what they do sometimes. You see, if the plant is not in the greenhouse, they turn off the heat. You have got to work in the cold. Sometimes we can't even feel our fingers. That was not good. And you can't complain to nobody. You have nobody to complain. It is either you do it or you don't.
Why you say you can't complain? What happens if you complain?
If you complain, you got to complain. All of the guys have to come together. No, if I want to complain, you got to want to complain too. If I alone complain, then you got to go home. Let me tell you something, Diane. There is a strategy there where I don't know who tell the boss, but somebody told the boss that is, I don't want to work. 50 more Jamaican and they will want your job. So if you don't want to do it, you get sent home and then call up another. That's the thing on the farm work. And I don't think plenty people don't understand that there is something there that they hold against the workers up there. And you have some different type of workers there. If you don't unite, you are in trouble. One man can't complain. Everybody have to come together and complain. Let me say this again. You have some workers be going there for 20, 30 years. All right. You see, if you're on the farm with those workers who satisfied with certain conditions, it's hard for you. It is hard for you. Because when you complain, they're going to say, those who were there before didn't have any problem. So how come now you have the problem? And that's the thing that's happening there.
So you think as well they figure that a lot of Jamaicans are desperate to come?
Desperate to come.
So they can treat people anyhow?
Of course that's what's happening there. I see those things happening there. Let me tell you the work condition. After we go up there January, clean up the place in cool and things like that. The time when the heat come in is when the plant come in. You are not important like the plant. You are not important. They just want to get their job done. So when the plant come in, sometimes they turn on the heat because the plant need the heat. You don't need the heat like the plant.
So during the day, you said it might go from 7 to 5 or 6?
Yes.
And you used to get your breaks during the day?
During the day.
Like how many breaks?
Like you get breaks like from when you go like 7, you get break 10, okay. 10 o'clock. Yeah, you can go for your break at 10 o'clock.
So what did you mean when you said the boss took away the break?
Took away, I don't know what happened, but she told us that no more break.
During the day?
During the day, no more break.
You had lunchtime though?
You have lunchtime, but they take away the break.
Apart from the lunch?
Apart from the lunch.
And did anybody complain?
No, you have somewhere complain, but they're not complaining that loud because I want to go back next year.
Okay.
And the boss understand that if you don't want to work, somebody else gonna get your job.
All right, so sometimes you were working 7 days a week, but then other times you say you would be off.
You'll be off. The work would be there, you know, but you don't get to work. They don't send you out to work, and the work is there.
And if you don't work, you're not earning?
Not earning. And if you're sick, and it costs from the job that you do, you're gonna stay in the bunkhouse, no pay.
Did they provide medical?
Sometimes.
Doctor, and so on?
Doctor don't come to you.
So how you get
You got
treated?
to go
Suppose
to the
you're sick,
hospital. You got to find yourself down to the hospital.
And who pays?
And well, well, that part now. If you go to the hospital, because I didn't go to the hospital, I don't know how that go.
All right. So what you're talking about was when you first started to go?
Yes.
So up to the time just before you left, because you say you were there up to 2017.
Yes.
What were the conditions there?
There it get harder.
Harder?
Yes, there it get harder because at that time, the hours cut. You're supposed to get your 40 hours per week. You're not getting that. You're going like 7 o'clock. By 12 you're out. The boss work finished for that time of the day. And the work is there.
What was the thing that bothered you most while you were there about the conditions?
Is that you don't have no one to talk to. The Jamaican Liaison Service that we say we have, I don't think it's Jamaican Liaison Service. It's Canadian Liaison Service.
Why you say that?
Because if you have a problem and you call the Liaison Service, the guys, the workers have a problem and you call the Liaison Service, they won't to you. They go to the boss. They talk to the boss first.
What do you mean?
Diane, I said you don't have a Jamaican Liaison Service, you're a Canadian Liaison Service. They look out for the boss, not you.
Ever wanted to build an online income? Wait, something isn't right.
Not you. I tell you an instant. We are not supposed to be in the greenhouse when the chemical is sprayed. And that's the time they start spray the field. Spray the tomato when we are in the greenhouse working, when we are not supposed to. And I remember this particular time when we all get the liaison officer to come. The liaison officer go to the big man, not to the workers.
So
and then they come out and say some little stupidness like, if you don't want to do it and somebody else will do it for you and all kind of stuff.
You heard that? You were there?
We were sitting on the stool out there when they came. That if they answer the phone, because the phone will be there ringing and nobody no answer. If they don't come, that's the thing you're going to hear from them. If you don't want to work, somebody else will do your work. So I think Jamaican workers, if it was the Mexican license service, they get a better job done than our Jamaican license service. They don't, I wouldn't like to say they don't give a kick. So the workers must complain, they have issues. So anybody would say that the workers don't have any issues up there. They have a lot of issues. Some places, they are not even toilet facilities some man having. They got to use bags to pass their thing in some area where they are and throw it away. So there shouldn't be somebody going to say, I go and see and everything all right. You see, if they know that the inspector is coming, everything tick-tock. Medicine in the medicine kit, everything line up. You see, after the inspector gone, God help you if something happen to you on the farm and you get a band-aid. They don't care about you that time.
So when you hear the minister say he went and he toured and everything is fine.
You see, they always try to paint a picture where everything is looking good. It's not looking good. People are still getting hurt, damaged and everything like that.
What do you think needs to be done for the program to help the workers?
To help the workers, I think they should have people going up there like workers, but investigating to show the real thing that's happening up there. Because as I said before, if I am going up there as a minister, I am going to let everything look good. When you come there, I give you an instant, Diane. When we were on that program, when the inspector is coming to the farm, no of us go to work. The inspector is supposed to see us there and working. Everybody had to stay at the bunkhouse until the inspector gone. Why? I think they don't want you to say anything to the inspector, to let him know the real stuff that is going on there. So they let you stay at the bunkhouse. I don't know for other farm, but I know where I was. That's what's happening there. If something important is coming, work shut down for that day until the inspector, that person gone. Yeah? So they don't see your real troubles. They don't know your real pain. I think they should have some undercover people go on that farm work program to see really what's happening. You just say, I'm going there. If I want to catch you, I'm not telling you that I am coming. I am coming to your place. You won't know. Because if you know, you're going to fix the thing that is bad until you are gone. Things remain the same.
For you, what was the worst day for you there?
The worst day was the January when we go up. I don't remember the year. All right, we finish work late because they want to get the farm ready for planting. All right. Then when we are ready to go home, I see somebody come and say, somebody said we must go over this and go take up some iron. That is not our job, to put on a truck to clean up the place. No heat in the place, then I couldn't feel my fingers. My hand them coming like them, my hand them dead, directly dead. Me know say me have fingers, but you can't feel them, they're frozen. And all the complaint we still have to do it. It's like, say,
what did that make you feel like?
Like nobody. Like you feel like you are nobody. You can't, I don't know how to put it. You don't feel like somebody. Nobody care about you. Why I leave my home to come here? But because of survival. And the thing is, when you work, they pay you. They don't owe you until tomorrow. If you work, they pay you. I think that's what the workers look at. They will pay me. And why come back to Jamaica and I don't have anything to do? I rather die here. But I don't treasure that mentality. I will get what I need, and from I get that, I done with that. Not going back. Because we may say slavery is finished. Slavery is not done. Slavery, it comes in a different form. You don't treat workers like that. You don't treat your workers like that. They are not, you hear them squealing up there? They want to feel their pain. They are not, they might have a smile, but it's not, they just put in the best outside, some of them. It's not easy. It's not easy. The young man will up there and get hurt, you know, and if he hurt one hand finger, he still have to go and work, you know. And the whole hand a pain him, but he still have to go and work. Because who I go pay you? Where you get money from? You have a family leave back here. It's painful up there. They must treat their people better than that. Jamaican must look out for Jamaican. Jamaican liaison service must work for the Jamaican people, not for them up there. I don't think Jamaican liaison service should be living in Canada. They don't treat the workers right. Sometimes you call for ring and answered.
So you think the ministry here needs to do more too?
They need to do more for the workers up there. They need to do more if they want this program to go on like how we go. That's why some run away in the end. That's why some run off of the program. We don't know how they make it, but problem find out say better. For if they can survive this, they must can survive in Canada then. But it's not pretty. And they mustn't paint a picture like it's pretty. Call a spade a spade. They're not having it easy up there.
Wow. If that didn't touch you, I don't know what will. Really bad, really bad. I have coming up shortly a gentleman that I spoke to earlier today. We did a video with him, but the video didn't come out so good. So I asked him if he can join us by phone. So I'm going to be calling him shortly. But before we go to Johnny, a Jamaican who has suffered similar fate and has another perspective on it as well, I want us to hear from another Caribbean person. This person is from Trinidad and Tobago. They did a video of their own accord. I want you to hear a part of what they had to say. Let's look at that now.
This is the condition where they have us living in, right? I can't handle this condition. What, John? What, John? Well, they doesn't realize what is going on this farm program, and and the minister and them step in and do something about it. Because people leaving the good house to come home and live like this. You understand? Leaving the good house to come up in Canada and live like this. Watch it. Right? What's good? We're seen missing. Yeah? No stove. Right? You have a chiller here. That can't freeze no meat. Right? You gotta go and cook with 10 Jamaicans in the house next door. Right? No washroom. Right? No washroom. If you had to use the washroom, you had to go by the Jamaicans again. 10 of them in the house. Right? And they have a washroom quite over the road. Right? If you don't want that, you come outside, garage living in. Watch it. Them for the ministers and them who minister of foreign affairs. Time for them to come and see what's going on this farm program now. They're actually shutting up down. Right? If a hot shit hole in the middle of the night, you gotta come out and use this. Watch it. You gotta use that. Watch it good. That we gotta use. You gotta come out and use this. If I should told any night. If you want to pee, you gotta come out and use this. Watch it. See? I will be living in that. Oh, you go quite over so. Where you a fella telling me some washroom it have quite over there. You understand? We supposed to have our own thing here. Then that we living in a garage. Right? With no stove, no washroom. Right? And look how the Jamaicans and them living.
So if you notice, the conditions were atrocious. They're actually living in a garage. And if you understand how a garage works, when it's winter in a garage, it's very likely that that garage is not heated. And if it's even heated, it's hard for it to stay warm properly because it's not built for you to live in it. It's built for you to park your car in, stock a few things, and so you can, so to live in that, to be in that, after you finish working very hard in the field, and then you come home to where you're going to sleep, eat and sleep, and wake up the next morning to go to work. That's excruciating because it's going to be damp, cold, chilly, and then of course your bathroom is outside. So if you need to use the washroom during the middle of the night, you need to get up, put on back all of your winter clothing to go and use the toilet, and then to come back in and go back into your bed. I hope you understand how severely uncomfortable and unhealthy that is. But I'm going to call the gentleman now that I told you about earlier, Johnny, and see if we can get him to tell us about his experience when he was on the farm work program in Canada. I'm calling him now. Hi, Johnny. Good evening, Johnny. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Let me check and see if those on the line can hear us as well. Everybody, if you can hear Johnny, let me know. Just say something, Johnny. Tell us where you were in Canada, which area of Canada you were, and roughly what year you're talking about.
Okay, the year was 2015, 2016, and it was in Scotland, Ontario, Canada.
Okay, so Scotland, Ontario, Canada, and it was around the year 2016.
2015, 16, and 2016, I went there 2 times.
Okay, 2 times, right. So you have a pretty good handle on things. Now, give us a rundown of what it was like when you first arrived. Were you surprised at what you saw, and what was your experience?
Okay, I was so surprised because I wasn't expecting conditions like that. The first thing after leaving the plane and went on the bus, we received a letter from our field boss with $100. And that $100 we were instructed to make sure we buy a rain suit and a water boot and then food. But the rain suit have to be a shirt and a trousers. That was so at least we could work in the rain. But we wasn't told that we were going to work in the rain. But when we reached to the bunk now, I was expecting like 2 guys in a one room or 1 guy to a room or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to, it was like upstairs. The kitchen was like downstairs. You couldn't enter from inside the bunk to go to the kitchen. You have to come downstairs to go to the kitchen, to go to the bathroom. You have to walk at the back and go downstairs to enter the bathroom.
Hold on. You're saying there's a bunk house that they had the 40 of you in. And when you want to use the toilet, you have to walk down a flight of stairs and go outside.
Right.
To use the toilet outside.
Right.
And if you want to use the kitchen, you walk down another flight of stairs and go outside to use the kitchen.
Yes, definitely.
So the kitchen outside and the toilet outside. So in the dead of night, if you want to, relieve yourself, dead of night, minus 25 degrees Celsius outside, you need to put on back all of your clothes and go outside in the middle of the night to go use the toilet.
Yes. Sometimes it was so cold. We don't want to go downstairs. We just stand on top of the stair and pee in our bucket. Yeah.
So people just use a bottle or a container. I was listening to a man earlier tonight, and he said some of them just pass their stuff in a box or a bag and throw it away somewhere later, because they don't want to go outside.
We use the bottle. We couldn't just throw it outside. We have to just use the bottle, keep it until in the morning we dispose it.
So it's like in a prison. In prison, when they go to prison, because when they locked me up last year, September 22nd, and I went into the jail, all the inmates had to have a bottle, like a bottle, like you can't see it, but I'm showing the bottle you had today, the Pepsi bottle.
Right.
So a bottle like that, or a bigger one, like the detergent bottle, you have to have that inside the jail and peanut that so that you can, because you don't have anywhere inside the jail. So you were like in a jail.
Yeah, even with the bedding condition was terrible. So when we went upstairs to go put away with stuff, when we look, it's like a bunk, it's a bunk bed like two guys to a bed, one at the bottom, one at the top, and the bed were not like ready-made bed. They were made of like 2x4.
Oh.
And large.
Oh, so like rough bed, rough cast.
Yeah, and then like the mattress now, it's like thick sponge put in like a mattress case. So if you zip up in the mattress case, you would realize it's a sponge is sleeping.
Yeah. So it's just a piece of sponge. It's not a proper mattress. It's a sponge.
No.
There's stuff inside of a bag, a zip-up bag, and then to sleep on that. And were those sanitary?
Yeah, they clean. They know you're coming, so they will wash it. But after that, it's like when you come, they get like 2 blankets, and then you're on your own. So no matter how cold, you have to buy extra blankets and stuff to keep you warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, was there any problem in terms of the any termites or anything?
Well, we never have termites, but I always hear about shrink. That is something we then call bed bug.
Right.
We never see it before. I always hear about it, but we never see it before until we were there for like the first month. We keep waking up seeing red spot on our skin, and like a guy find one of the bug, and when he burst it, it's like full of blood. And we realized it was trick. And one of the guy complained, and he even get sent home for it.
Because he complained that there was chink in the mattress that he's sleeping on, which bite him and bite up everybody who's sleeping on it. He was sent home. I think I lost connection with Johnny, so hopefully he'll call me back. So you hear it, my friends. If you complain about the problem, they send you home, or you don't get to go back on the program. So what he's saying is that they are in a bunkhouse on some, bunk beds. And the beds actually, he told me earlier today when I spoke to him that they had, here we go. All right, welcome back, Johnny.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are going to tell us about the setup now. So you said they have, how many beds they have on one side and how many they have on the next side?
It's like 40 of us, so it's like 10 bed on one side, 10 on the other, so 20 guys on one side, so two each bed.
Wow, and what's the space between the beds?
It's like 3 feet apart.
3 feet apart. So you have 20 of you on one side, each of those bunk beds 3 feet apart, and 20 on the other side with a passageway between the two.
Right. So you can literally see when you look through the passageway, you can see what everybody's doing.
Wow.
So if you get some privacy, if you are one of the lucky guys to get one of the bottom bunk, where you can get sheets and bag around your bed to get some privacy. But you still hear what everybody are doing and that. So some people playing music, some people playing dominoes. It's like crazy.
So basically, when you go inside your area to sleep, when you go in to sleep, you can't just go to bed comfortably because you have 39. You can't hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay, so you have 39 other men in this bunk room with you. So you can't just go to bed comfortably because they might be doing different things, playing music, domino, whatever it is. And and the light is on as well, so the light can't bother you.
You have light in probably on one side you might have 3 row of lights. So the man with these lights situation is to him that I control the light.
My goodness. So it means then you might wake up the next morning without much sleep, depending on, how able you are to sleep through all of that chaos.
Yeah. If you're someone who can condition yourself to the night and all the excitement, you're going to lose rest. You're not going to sleep.
Yes.
So a lot of people working not used to those conditions suffers a lot.
So when you're in this room now, when you go to bed, you are sleeping in a room with 40 other people. So everybody are breathe out their carbon dioxide, and people are snore, and you have to inhale and you have to exist in all of that. 40 people in this one area. My goodness. Now tell me about. Go ahead.
In the summer, it's very hot, so you have to buy a little fan to keep yourself cool. Because there is no air condition.
So no air condition in the summer. Now in the winter, how do the heat go? How do they manage the heat?
Well, in the winter, the boss control the heat because you have a panel where you lock the switches. So you have access to all the heat, to the heat. So when it gets cold, well cold, that is the time you turn on the heat, and you know, turn it on hot enough that you can feel comfortable.
Right. Him barely crack it, because what am I doing now? He might make sure he manage for him cost. So he will keep the heat off as long as possible to the bare minimum of human existence. And then go ahead, yes.
I can remember one of the times the guys then decided to let's fight him because he take too long to turn on the heat, so we turn on all the stoves.
My gosh. So basically, he keeps the heat down. You have to suffer through it and turn it to a level that is barely good enough for you to exist. And then you have to find a way to sleep through that and then wake up to go to work in the morning. And what time you start working in the morning?
Okay, 7 o'clock. So we normally wake up from 4:30.
Wow.
So when we wake up 4:30, you prepare your stuff, wait on the bus to bring you to the for sometimes the field are not near. So you have to drive probably an hour, half an hour to reach the field.
Okay. So you have to wake up from 4:30 in order to get to the field, which is a relative distance away, in order to start working at 7 a.m. sharp. And you work from 7 until what time?
Until 12. We don't get any break. We don't get no 15 minutes break. Some farm get 15 minutes break, but our farm is like a hour farm. So the work just starts 7, not until 12.
My goodness. So you have to work straight through until 12 o'clock midday.
Yeah.
And what is the pace like?
You buy a little bucket and you carry your water, your juice, and you snack on your body.
So you have to make sure that when you go out there to work at 7 o'clock, you know you have no bathroom break, you have no little refreshment break. So you have to make sure you strap on to yourself your water, little snacks or whatever you want, so that you can.
Make sure before you start work, you use the bathroom, because the next bathroom probably a Hyundai field, and it might be Hyundai field like a quarter of a mile away or something like that, because the fields are very long. And depends on what you're doing. You keep going, especially if you're breaking like coins, and the machine work is like the machine you work behind it. So if as long as it is driving, you have to be walking behind it. So you can't stop. For example, you want to pee, you have to say to a guy, break this for me, just break this road for me, and him probably I will break for you when I break for you, and we have to hurry up and get back in your position. Right. Like crazy.
So you guys have to help out each other under very difficult conditions and try to survive, because if you take a proper break, you're going to lose your job.
Yes, because the field boss will complain, and then the boss will say, boy, you're not competent enough, you're wasting time. So you might get rid of you. Probably last year you'll get your send them before the season over.
Now the field boss, who is the field boss? Is that one of your own?
Field boss, sir?
Yeah, go ahead. Who is the field boss?
The field boss is a guy that the boss chooses. We call him a yes man. The boss will choose a man where he can pass around, and that guy will pass us around.
So it's like the Bakra master days in slavery, where they pick one of the slave and make him overseer for the other slave them, and him crack the whip.
Definitely.
My God. So it's pretty much slavery in a modern form.
Yes, definitely.
Because you have to live in fear all the time. You can't really tell the truth. You can't really complain. You can't say you're sick. So if you're feeling sick, you have to hide it. If you want to go to the bathroom, you have to stand it. You have to just hold the pee, hold the poo, you know, your body get cramp up and everything. If you're working in an area where you have to be bending down for a long period, you can't get up.
No, you don't see the liaison officers where they said they appoint to you guys. We don't see them. For 2 times travel, we never see them. Not even 1 time. We only hear them down at the party down at the bus.
Hold on, what you tell me? Hold on. The liaison officer that represents the government of Jamaica, who is supposed to check to make sure that the farm workers are being treated as agreed in whatever agreement them have. He doesn't come and check on you guys. Instead, him go and...
never see him 1 time.
My God. Him go eat and drink. Him go eat and drink with the... Go ahead.
And like you come down and you said, I mean, when you reach the ministry level, you said, I don't want to go back to that farm because of the condition. They say they're going to change you, but when you get the call and you go to medical and see them farm,
my gosh. So basically, if I understand this correctly, the liaison officer comes to the farm and goes and spend a good time, jolly old time with the farm master, with the colonial master. Yeah? Eat and drink and have a nice time. Don't check for uno, and then him gone. And maybe in the process get something on the table, eh?
Yeah, that is what we think, we never see him.
Yes.
We never see him and we always complain. Even
My
when
goodness.
the guys get sick, we don't see him.
So basically, look on this one, Johnny. Our government set up a system where it set up the people them for be slave.
Yes, definitely. Because even with our health card, we think that when we go up our health card, we'll be prepared. So we can get people in case we're sick. They start prepared when we spend 3 months and 4 months. So probably in the 2nd month they start prepared. You never get it until the last month when you're ready to come home. That you still.
You see the trick.
Back as soon as you come in.
You see the trick. Here's the trick with them pulling upon us, Johnny. Here's the trick. The trick is this. They tell you about wonderful benefits, but they make sure you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it.
Because the health card you're supposed to get so you can get health care proper, they make sure that you get it when you leave. And then they take it back from you because you're leaving.
Right.
My goodness.
Some farm, and I wouldn't say every farm is like that, because when you go to shopping and you meet other guys, they tell you about their farm and 2 guys married to a room.
Yeah.
Our farm is like our farm, our little work, while the other farms are like task farms. So as long as you can work and you can do it, more work you do, you get more money.
Yes.
But our farm is like working 10 hours like crazy if you get hours in that.
Right. So for to be what you're saying now, fair, what you're saying is there are farms that may not have been as bad as yours.
No.
And
that farms out there.
So you might have a farmer who is conscientious, who is benevolent, who, recognize us as human beings and treat us in a fair way. But some farmers now get away with doing all kind of injustice to the employee. Wow. Wow. All right. I'm going to stop now because I'm going to call you back again another day because I want to do a part 2. So I'm going to stop for now, Johnny. Thanks again and appreciate it. We'll talk again. All the best.
All the best.
Bye-bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. That's Johnny talking. And earlier today, you heard on All Angles with Diane Jackson Miller. She was interviewing one there. And you heard from the Trinidadian as well. And you have seen the letter that has been circulating. And other farmers, other farm workers have been saying pretty much the same thing. So we're not saying all of the farms are bad, but we don't know how many are bad, and we don't know how many are good. And the environment and the structure, the way it has been designed, clearly suggests that we have a problem. So the government of Jamaica has entered into agreement with plantation owners in North America to ship off low-skilled workers to work in their farms under questionable arrangements. These farm workers, like many Jamaicans, are desperate for work and will do almost anything to escape their poverty-stricken lives here in Jamaica. This opens them up for exploitation, many health hazards, and even an untimely death due to conditions under which they have to live and work on these farms. The citizens in the countries like Canada or America would not work under these conditions. They are not prepared to do what desperate laborers from Jamaica and other depressed countries of the Caribbean and South America are prepared to do. We have been made prime targets for what is really a legalized form of scamming. Once in these countries, the mostly undereducated, low or no skilled laborers are shocked to find themselves isolated on a massive farm far away from regular civilizations. They're usually stuffed and stacked like animals in buildings unfit for human habitation. In the case of Johnny, with whom I just spoke, 40 of them was in one room with 10 two-level bunk beds on one side and 10 more on the other side. 40 people in one room, stacked like a row of cows, breathing in each other's hair, sleeping in unsavory conditions that are, makes it very difficult for them to be able to get a good night's rest. The beds were just sponges in a zipper bag and loaded with what he called chinks or bed bugs that may bite them and infect them. They could not complain, however, for doing so could mean being sent home or not being called back to work the next session. These poor farm workers had to go outside to get to the bathroom and the kitchen, even in the dead of winter, on bitterly cold nights. Many chose to relieve themselves in bags and dispose of it later. Bags or bottle or boxes, we're told. Taking a shower was less than private in Johnny's case. All 40 men used open shower stalls, much like you do with cows. However, nothing was worse than the actual working conditions themselves. Rain or shine, bitter cold or scorching sun, these men, separated from their families for 3 or more months in the year, had to work like dogs for every penny they earned. In Johnny's case, they started at 7 a.m. and worked until 12 noon at breakneck speed without a break. And they could not stand, go to the washroom, or get sick. Deviating from the grind meant loss of wages or worse, being sent home. The threat of being sent home and not being able to call or not being called back kept most of these men quiet. They could not afford to lose the job because they were made so desperate. They suffer in silence under the watchful eyes of an informer of their own kind who was appointed as overseer. Does that sound familiar to you? Does it sound like a period not too long ago? Usually, the white master appoints 1 or 2 of the laborers to supervise and drive the others. They also served as snitches or informers to help the modern-day slave master keep everyone in check. Even the government-appointed and paid liaison officer was in on the scam. He would visit the farm, but went straight to the white master's home or entertainment spot to eat, drink, and no doubt take a bribe. And then writes up a glowing report without ever sitting down with the farm workers or ever setting foot inside their dingy, dirty, rat, roach, or bedbug-infested barracks where the modern-day slaves must suffer to feed their families. Instead of government creating a local economy and agricultural environment where we can farm at competitive levels and employ our own people, they have systematically destroyed sugar, destroyed banana, destroyed coffee, etc., etc., to create wage slaves for Canada and America. Instead of educating our people to operate at the higher end of the economic scale, they have created and perfected an education system that fails over 70% of our children each and every year. 70% of our children. Instead of looking to build an economy of great teachers and highly intelligent and productive graduates, they seek to benefit from exporting both our teachers and the poor graduates they produce. In fact, both the government of Jamaica and the governments of the Colonial Masters seek to tax or recover as much as possible from the minimal wages they pay these migrant workers. Oftentimes, they hire much more than they need on these farms, so none of them ever gets a full 40-hour week. That's what Johnny told me earlier today when I spoke to him. Meanwhile, the underemployed laborer is stuck on the master's farm idle, but will not be paid. This is one of the most sophisticated scams ever designed by men. Yes, and our government, our leaders, those who we've entrusted with managing our affairs, they are a part of this big, big scam. In fact, it is really slavery through the back door. But Marcus Garvey did warn us. Yes, Marcus Garvey said, any leadership that leads you to depend on another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Let me say it again. Any leadership that leads you to depend on another race is a leadership that will enslave you. And yes, they have. The two colonial parties have been step by step, little by little, year after year after year, been pulling us right back into slavery, but a more subtle, a more crippling, and a more deadly form of slavery. It's the form of slavery where the slave doesn't even fully recognize that he's a slave. That's the most dangerous form. Many of these unsuspecting laborers are being poisoned by the chemicals in which they're being forced to work. You heard it in one of the clips. They're forced into areas to work unprotected and in areas that they should not even be working in at the time when they're being asked to work, under very, very suspicious conditions where the chemicals are being released and it's being absorbed into these men. The unhealthy length of work without breaks, in back-breaking positions, under extreme hot or cold conditions, in very uncomfortable, germs-ridden, poorly ventilated housing. This will surely leave many very sick in their latter years without access to proper health care in their home country. They come right back here to suffer and die. Yes, when they get them at 20 and 25 and so on, and work them out, expose them, treat them poorly, and then when they can't manage anymore, they just ship them back here to our bad healthcare system to suffer further in silence. The colonial masters, the politicians, the governments, they will all benefit from the deal. But the cost of this scam will be fully borne by those laborers, their families, and our society at large. We, the Jamaican people, have to deal with the after effects. Yes, them trick us to focus on a little dollar that we get, but they do not help us to count the cost, the full cost of this arrangement. and how much they get to rip off, because they're exploiting these persons and taking a portion of their health and their wealth, oftentimes destroying even their families. Because when a father goes off and leaves his family for months at a time, only God knows what happened. Use your imagination. How many of our daughters have lost their virginity to rape because their fathers weren't there to protect them? Just think about it. How many families have been destroyed because of this? While here in Jamaica, the politicians get to be gods as they decide who will get farm work cards. Those who get will forever be grateful and loyal to this politician, having no idea that they were mere disposable pawns in a wicked scam that might cost them, their family, cost them their health, and cost them their lives prematurely. How many families were destroyed by fathers leaving on farm work for months? How many men lost their health to the exploitative, back-breaking, unhealthy work conditions? How many of our people have lost their lives prematurely due to the combination of harsh working conditions and harsh living conditions? We may never know the answer to those. We may never know the answers to those questions. We may never know the answers to those questions, but we trusted our government, and they certainly do not want us to know. Yet we know enough. We know enough to know that it's time for us to do something about it, and that something is to fire them backside right now and permanently. The UIC has a better way to run this country. We believe that we can do far better than we have done under these two parties for the last 78 years. We believe that we can implement the Netherlands-style mass, high volume, high value, export-driven organic farming that will allow us to hire and pay ourselves the big bucks, rather than shipping our men and women off to go work for peanuts in another man's country. We can build a solid organic farming industry right here in Jamaica. We can be the mass producer of foods, organic foods, quality foods, and send it to the rest of the world. And none of us will have to go off to work for these people again. They might come work for we. We can implement a Singapore-style tourism product that makes all of Jamaica the all-inclusive resort. A kind of all-inclusive resort that will include all Jamaicans. So everyone away in every community would really benefit from real community tourism. I believe we can create a new education system, one that will empower our parents, empower our teachers, and empower our students to be thinkers, to be innovators, to be creators, to be inventors, instead of being cannon fodder for the labor mill of the Colonial Masters. We want and we must make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. We must and we can make Jamaica the best example of tourism that works for everybody. We can and we must build an education system that brings out the best in our people. And I think it's time for us to say goodbye to these two parties and hello to the UIC. But before I go, I want to share with you one more video. This video will show you what we can do in farming here and how we can keep our farmers here, how we can keep our laborers here, how we can build our people into ingenious producers of high quality products, high quality foods for the rest of the world. Take a look.
Here we have the Netherlands, a beautiful, very flat country made up of windmills and tulip fields. When people think of the Netherlands economy, their mind goes straight to Amsterdam, whether it be the coffee shops or recent headlines about post-Brexit financial services. But in this video, we are going to explore Dutch agriculture, which has helped turn the economy of the Netherlands into the Silicon Valley for food. If I asked you, Who do you think is the biggest food exporter in the European Union? You might think France, Spain, or Italy. That's what I answered before I researched this video. As you might have guessed from the title of this video, the answer is actually the Netherlands. The Dutch economy is the agricultural powerhouse of the European Union, and that title could perhaps stretch to the world for certain fruits or vegetables. The Netherlands is the second largest food exporter globally, behind the United States. But if you compare the population of both countries, it's no surprise the USA is ahead. The truth is that agriculture in the Netherlands performs incredibly well and generates a lot of economic growth and productivity growth for the Dutch economy. So how did this happen, despite having a relatively low landmass compared to other large agricultural economies? Understanding this is the aim of this video, and if you appreciate the work that goes into these videos, don't forget to click that like and subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and it can really help support the channel. So why has the economy of the Netherlands become something of an agricultural powerhouse? Typically, as countries become more developed, they move away from sectors like agriculture to heavy manufacturing and then eventually services. The reason for this is due to an economic concept called opportunity cost. This is essentially the hidden cost of making one decision over another. For example, if you have a piece of land that is 1 hectare and you use it to grow potatoes, you might earn 7,000 or 8,000 euros. If instead you use that area to build a factory or an office, the return could be much higher. Well, the Netherlands has actually been a bit backwards in this aspect. Famous Dutch companies include Shell and Philips, and the first stock exchange in the world was actually in the Netherlands. It wasn't until fairly recently that the Dutch economy started looking at ways to become a large agricultural producer and exporter. Now I know what you might be thinking. Agriculture in the European Union, it's got to be subsidised. You would be partially right, as the Common Agricultural Policy is essentially just that. But compared to other prosperous EU countries, the Netherlands gets a much lower subsidy. The Dutch economy gets about a third of what Greece gets, or a tenth of what France gets. And when you consider this to one of the other countries I've covered before, Switzerland, it is clear that something else explains this. The answer as to how the Netherlands economy has become the garden of the world can be explained in one word: technology. That's the simple answer, but that doesn't explain why other countries can't keep up. After all, it's not as if Spain or France can't afford technology. And that's why we have to go back a bit further to understand why agriculture in the Netherlands was promoted as a sector. In the 1970s, the economy of the Netherlands was one of the most prosperous in Europe. Compared to the UK, the Netherlands was practically a paradise. Instead of rolling blackouts and constant strikes, the Netherlands economy was growing and dominating global markets in electronics and gas. However, there were some issues that started to appear in the Netherlands during this time. With market-leading firms growing at a rate quicker than the rest of the economy, it encouraged younger, more educated workers to move away from agriculture to well-paying sectors. This put Dutch agriculture under a lot of pressure, an issue made worse by the fact that Dutch farms can't really benefit from economies of scale. Unlike the USA, which has incredibly large farms, typically owned by a big corporate, the Netherlands had the opposite, which made larger investments more risky. Another issue at this point is an economic concept called the Dutch disease. With sectors like natural gas bringing in large demand, the Dutch currency continued to strengthen. This made it even harder for Dutch farmers to compete with agriculture from other European economies. So why didn't the Dutch government just give up on agriculture? After all, it wasn't that valuable to the economy of the Netherlands, and trade was becoming more open across the globe, meaning there wasn't a food security issue. Well, if the Dutch government was looking at it purely from an economic perspective, they might well have given up on it, but sometimes people and politics can get in the way of that. The good news is that the outcomes have been remarkably positive, but we will come back to those later. Farming associations in the Netherlands had a disproportionate amount of power. For example, farming associations essentially had an open-door policy with the government, and they regularly took the opportunity to try and keep agriculture alive within the country. As the rest of the economy was developing around them, Dutch farmers were not willing to change from agriculture to one of the growing sectors. And given their political influence, the government needed to figure out a way to deal with this issue. Instead of giving up on agriculture, the Dutch government decided to double down on agriculture and decided that if it was going to be part of the Netherlands economy, it was going to be a productive one. Since salaries couldn't be reduced or more land created, the only solution was to improve productivity, and that's where technology and research step in. More specifically, the University of Wageningen entered the scene and became a key economic player. This university is to the Dutch economy what Stanford University is to Silicon Valley. Stanford University is not only a world leader in research, they also produce the best computer scientists in the world. These computer scientists then leave Stanford and go to work for Facebook, Apple, or Google. For agriculture, this Dutch university takes up the mantle of world leader. And instead of being called Silicon Valley, the Netherlands has Food Valley. Many of you probably hadn't heard of this university. I certainly hadn't. But its role cannot be understated. It only works in the world of agriculture, and everything is geared towards producing the best research and the best workforce for the sector. They don't offer degrees in law or politics. It is all about biology, chemistry, or food science. They are also funded in a very different way to most universities, which stems from the fact that to make Dutch farming competitive, it needed to be productive. The funding structure for the university is made up of both public and private sector funding. In the last 2 decades, public sector funding for the university's research budget has doubled, aimed specifically at improving the economy of the Netherlands through something called agritech. Over 25% of the funding then comes from the private sector, typically agricultural firms wanting to improve their own productivity. This does not mean that the university is being privatised, nor does it mean that the research the university produces is hidden away, never to be seen again. It actually has a major benefit, which is that it allows the university to be connected to the business community in the region, and through a concept called the agglomeration effect, this has created an economic boom. By working closely with agricultural businesses and helping them to boost the Dutch economy, it has encouraged more firms to set up in the area. This in turn leads to business support services like accountants or lawyers setting up shop, as well as cafes or restaurants as wages go up. Most importantly in this instance, it also encourages intelligent people to come and study at the university. The university is the most cited in this field and has incredibly close links with businesses. Whether you want to do research or become an entrepreneur, the university is the place to be for those interested in agriculture. The result is that 40% of the students and staff at the university are foreign, coming from every inch of the globe. For someone like me, who can only speak one language, it would be great as the official language of the university is actually English. To give an example of what this actually means to people in real life, let's look at tomato growing in the Netherlands. The starting point is to understand natural Dutch conditions. Growing tomatoes would be pretty challenging. Thankfully, through the research produced by the university, the Netherlands is a pioneer in LED technology and improving agricultural yields. This helps create a precisely controlled microclimate which can be operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This has helped the Netherlands become a world leader in tomato growing and exporting. But there's also a bigger piece to all of this. Economic growth and protecting the environment are often put side by side as things that are mutually exclusive. The Dutch tomato is an example that shows that this is not always true. In the USA, farmers need about 126 litres of water for every 1 kilo of tomatoes. In the Netherlands, farmers need just 8 litres of water to grow a kilo of tomatoes. An amazing saving in both economic and environmental terms. Not only does the university help to produce the research, it also plays a key role in getting that research out there so that farmers can take advantage of it. What I didn't know was how quick technology changes within agriculture, and it is thanks to the university and the Dutch Agricultural Council that farmers can stay on top of that. After all, it's no good being a farmer and getting money from the Common Agricultural Policy and then not knowing what to actually spend the money on. The Agricultural Council helps signpost farmers to the most up-to-date equipment for whatever crop they're trying to grow. They want to grow potatoes, they'll be told what machines to get. If they want to grow tulips, they'll be told what tech they need. The overall result is that Dutch agriculture is one of the most productive in the world, but from an environmental perspective, they reign supreme too. For example, antibiotics use is much lower. The same is true for pesticide usage. Water usage for their crops has fallen by close to 90% since the technology revolution began. And thankfully, being the open and trading nation that the Netherlands is, they are exporting this technology around the globe, which will hopefully have a similar positive impact elsewhere. Both the United Arab Emirates and Singapore have made large orders for Dutch agricultural technology. They're doing this to improve their food security, and I wouldn't be surprised if other rich growing economies do the same. It is a success story that goes under the radar when thinking about the Dutch economy. But the cheese I had for lunch is in part due to the agricultural revolution, and for that, I say thank you. Over to you then. Did you know before this video how strong Dutch agriculture was? Were you surprised by the role of agriculture in the Netherlands economy? Let me know in the comment section down below. And whilst you're down there, make sure you check out the description.
Okay, I hope you found that video to be as exciting and as encouraging and as motivating as I did, because what that video says is that we have been wasting time in agriculture. We who have more than the Netherlands, we have better climate, better soil, and I believe no lesser brain than the people of the Netherlands. I'm very thankful that they have taken the time to do what they did to create the beautiful outcomes that they did. I'm very thankful that the people of Singapore took the time to do what they did to create the beautiful outcome that they did. But I'm damn well fed up with us not taking the time to do those same things here. The time has come for us to make a big, immediate change of direction, change of leadership, change of system of governance. We cannot continue on this trajectory. In fact, if we do, in another 78 years, you will not recognize us. We will be like little germs and insects in our own country, tenants in our own country, if we continue to allow this. So please, I'm asking you to do three basic things. One is to go to our website, uicjamaica.com, and join today. When you join, you're sending a message. Right now, we have about 3,000 persons who have joined so far via our website. There are many other persons who are donating and supporting the movement. But when you go on the website and you join, we now have a connection with you. We can send you information. You can know what we're doing. So number one is to join. Number two is to volunteer. Raise your hand and say, listen, I'm available. Where can I help out? You might be living in England. You might be living in Canada. You might be living in the US, the Cayman Island, or Germany, or Sweden. Doesn't matter where you are. We need your brain. We need your contribution. We need your participation. So first, join. Second, volunteer. And third, donate. When you donate to the UIC, you're actually voting for change. You might not be able to come here and vote in the next election, but by donating, you're actually voting because you're giving us the means to be able to wage a successful campaign. You're helping poor Jamaicans, average Jamaicans who don't have much, but who are willing to stand up and represent and fight for their rights in our system of governance and change it. They need your help. We need your help for gas, for credits, for time away from our jobs and businesses to be able to do the work for you. We need that big time. We need you to know that on September 9th, we're going to be in Mandeville. I'm going to court again on your behalf. They locked me up, but I have charged them with violating your rights, and now it's our business, right? So we are in this together. So I need you to support us at court on the 9th, whether you can come in person at the Mandeville Courthouse at 10 a.m. or you can send some money to help us with doing some canvassing in the area and make sure that we connect with more people in Mandeville. On the 22nd of September, we're going to be doing our grand commemorative walk where we're saying enough is enough, good governance now. And we're bringing together a cross-section of Jamaicans to say we are demanding good governance in our country now. We don't want no more of this, where our Jamaican citizens, our brothers and sisters, are being forced into modern-day slavery because our government has failed to work on our behalf to create conditions in our country so we don't have to be economic refugees in other people's country. There are 4 million Jamaicans and children of Jamaicans living outside of Jamaica right now because they were forced into economic refugee status because the government of Jamaica failed to create an environment in Jamaica where we can stay here, where we can live, earn, and retire with dignity in our own country. The UIC wants to change that. The UIC will change that. But we can't do that by any form of miracle. There's no miracle here. We can only do it by joining hands together. You see the symbol on our logo? It's us coming together, joining hands together, joining our hearts together. In fact, I like to put it this way, giving up our time, our talent, and our treasure to rescue our country. And we can do it. Anyways, I want to take some questions now, and I really hope that this was an eye-opener for you, and you really now fully understand what our farm workers are suffering in silence, for the most part, in those places where the government, indirectly forced them to go. Let's have some questions or comments. John the Revelator says, I'm interested in knowing, how do you plan to deal with the Chinese influence on the Jamaican government? This is a new modern day taskmaster. I couldn't agree with you more. Whether it's the Chinese or the English or the Spanish or anybody else that comes here, they have found a fertile ground to be able to manipulate our people through our government. The best way for us to deal with anyone, any country that is trying to negatively influence our government is to make sure we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It needs to be a government which is owned by the people. So in fact, it's not what I plan to do, it's what we must do. We must own the UIC. We must make sure the PSOJ oligarchs don't own this organization, and the Colonial Masters with their grants don't own this organization. We, the people, must own the UIC. That's why I said, join, volunteer, donate. Let's make sure we own this. So when we elect the UIC, we're electing a government that will be fully and 100% owned by the Jamaican people. Beyond that, you need a leader who is able to negotiate effectively, who can demonstrate great diplomacy, who is able to navigate the tricky and turbulent waters of geopolitics. I have taken the time to study all of these matters very carefully before putting myself forward and before creating the UIC over the last 10, 11 years. We can do this. We can learn from history. We must learn from history so that we don't repeat it, and we can actually make better decisions having known it. And so we will deal with our friends and partners in the rest of the world. When we elect the UIC, it will be a very different government with a very different set of mandates and with the backing of the people, and no longer dependent on a few small minority that so far controls 90% of the wealth in our country. Next question. If we continue to depend on other people, we will continue to be wage slaves. If we don't take control of our society, slavery will not end for our society. It's time for the UIC. Thank you, Sean Campbell. Could not have said it any better myself. Excellent. Next question or comment. Sean Campbell, Mitzi is responding. Some of us are taking too long to wake up, and that is the problem. Mitzi, you're so correct. We're very slow, actually, very, very slow. Right now, the UIC should have millions and millions of dollars to be able to support candidates and wage a very strong campaign. We're far from that, but I'm hoping we can make up grounds very, very fast. Thank you. Next question. Jamaicans and all other countries who go there must stop support the slavery system and these turncoats. Think these people care about them? Such a pity Marcus Garvey words come to pass. Yes, and what's a pity, Mitzi, is that the vast majority of us don't even know that he said those words, much more that they have come to pass. Next question. Patricia Brooks, the government agency who sent those workers there should inform them properly about their rights, and the workers should have a number to contact a representative to defend their rights. If at any time a worker is mistreated, all workers should stop. Here's the problem, Patricia. You can have all of those rules in place, but you have to deal with the reality. The reality is the government of Jamaica over the last 78 years have made the people here impoverished. the money they make when they go over there is much more than what they make when they're here. And so they are in a position where they're naturally going to be victims and will be victimized if they ever try to extricate themselves out of it. The whole policy and direction of our government has to change. And for that, we need a new government that is not tied to that system and that does not operate from that framework. We need the UIC. Next question. How will you reform the farming sector? Many are exploited and only the rich benefits, like in the marijuana industry. Absolutely. 20 Chevron, for example, with marijuana, we're going to completely free the industry. So the poorest of person will be able to benefit fully from engaging in the planting, harvesting, processing, and exporting of the product. We're going to free up the entire agricultural sector, and we're going to encourage Jamaicans by making sure that all of us are property owners and that we all have a share in the agri sector. That's how we're going to own our piece of the land, while at the same time being made property owners, so we own a decent home. So we have a policy of ensuring 98% or more of Jamaicans are property owners, and at the same time, all Jamaicans get a share in the agri-development sector. We're going to have massive organic farms like you've seen in the Netherlands, but so we can't have them broken up into small pieces. That's not very efficient. So we're going to have a mix of small and large linked together through a system that allows every Jamaican to be a shareholder, and for these farmlands to be maximum, placed on the maximum production, not having houses being built on these farmlands. We're not going to allow the kind of things that you see now with Michael Leachin first telling us that he's going to use 3,000 hectares or whatever it is for acres or whatever it is for farming, and then suddenly now it is being repurposed to build lucrative homes that will make him richer but make Jamaica poorer. We're going to make sure we don't fall for that trick going forward. But the longer we take to do it, this government, whether it's the green or the orange, will continue to sell off our country and push us down into a rabbit hole from which we may never be able to recover. So we need to act fast to take back our country from them, divest it of these kind of arrangements, and put the land under production and put the ownership in the hands of the poorest of Jamaican. The ownership, they may not do the work, because not everybody is equipped to do the work. So we're going to have the right people doing the right work, and everybody being a part of owning a stake in that and doing the work that best fits their talents and ability, so that they can be a part of the whole system that pays for the safe, clean, and orderly country that we must have in order to have a highly productive country, and paying for the quality education system we must have in order to have highly engaging, highly intelligent, highly productive, highly informed citizens who can make Jamaica the #1 country in the world. Our size doesn't matter. Singapore has proven that. They're 1/15 the size of Jamaica, but they have nearly 6 million people, and they have outshone most countries in the world on almost every index, whether it is safety, productivity, or exports, or tourism. They have done phenomenally well. And if they can do that with 1/15 the size of Jamaica, we can do much better with 15 times their size in landmass and far more assets in terms of fertility and water and all that we have here in Jamaica. We can do much better. And under a UIC government, we are going to do much better. But please, it will not happen by miracle. We all have to roll up our sleeves and get involved. Join the UIC, volunteer in the UIC, donate to the UIC. Get actively engaged, not just sitting on the sideline hoping and wishing. Get involved and help us to do it. Next question. What about our energy bill? Absolutely. Dion Campbell, the energy bill is massive because over that same 78-year period, our government has failed to diversify and open up the energy sector. And instead, they have created a monopoly and lock us into the most inefficient and ineffective way of generating energy in a country of our type. They have locked us into a European-style economy where we have winter, as opposed to locking us into a tropical economy where we have whole heap of sun, where we have the water, where we have the biomass. So the UIC is going to quickly shift us into a different direction where the sector is opened up, so any Jamaican can be an energy producer and can sell that into a common grid for our use. And any Jamaican can get into the business of generating biomass energy, methane gas. Any Jamaican can get into the business of generating geothermal energy. The same thing for wind energy, the same thing for hydro energy. And of course, we're going to maximize solar energy. One of my proposal, which you'll hear Andrew start talking about soon, because he copies everything I say but doesn't do it. We're going to use all of those mud lakes created by the destructive bauxite mining, all those mud lakes, we're going to cover them and make them solar farms so that we can harness all of that energy that is wasting on those infertile lands that they have left us with in the wake of their destructive mining operations. So we're going to full out all of those areas with massive solar farms. And so Jamaica is going to quickly move from where it is now to 40%, 50%, 60%, 70% alternative energy and less dependence on fossil fuel. We can't wipe out fossil fuel entirely in the short term, but we can successfully reduce it year after year in massive chunks until we get down to a ratio of anywhere between 70 and 80% of the overall mix. And don't even discount the idea of possibly looking at nuclear as well. It's something I'm studying closely. I will give you some thoughts on that later on. Next question. What do you think about the issues concerning a compound? Olmec TV saying that. The funny thing is the compound situation is really very simple. It is just made very convoluted and difficult because we have a government with a different mindset. And when I say government, I'm not talking green or orange. I'm talking green and orange. Jamaica is designed to be an outpost of the Colonial Masters. So our government model is not designed to give freedom to anybody. The only people who have freedom in this country are those who are a part of the elite because they have the money to buy their freedom. The rest of us are shackled in a form of slavery through the laws that we have and the very design of our government. So as soon as the UIC becomes the government and implement our philosophy of freedom, where we respect the sovereignty of every individual, you're going to find the Maroons will have the freedom to now have the kind of sovereignty that they desire in the areas that make sense for them to occupy. Yes, we're going to have to go back and look at the history, have some negotiations, have some discussions to make sure that we do what is practical and pragmatic. But the UIC is all about respecting the rights of all Jamaicans and looking at those historical rights and historical relationships and honoring them. For example, the Rastafarian community will love the UIC when we get into office because for the first time in the history of Jamaica, they're going to be fully recognized and given the chance to fully live their culture and not be marginalized or in any way discriminated against or limited by the government. As long as a group or an individual is not using force or fraud to achieve their objectives, they will find the UIC system very favorable because we protect everybody's right, religious freedom, personal freedom, your life, your liberty, and your property rights. We believe that Jamaica belongs to all of you. This land is yours. There should never have been any crown lands. This land belonged to every single Jamaican, and it should have been owned by all Jamaicans, individually owning a piece of it. Now, we missed that boat back in the 1830s and subsequently. So now we have to do it a little bit different. So what we're going to do is make every Jamaican a property owner, a decent home, affordable, that you can afford through a very skillfully designed financing arrangement that doesn't make it onerous for anybody to have a house. And by anybody, I mean families, because you can't give every single individual. That's not practical. But having the family structure and having a mechanism for the home to pass from family to family and so on. And of course, we build out based on population growth while protecting our core lands and making sure that we don't lose the capacity to be food secure, water secure, and energy secure. So we're going to balance all of those. But at the same time, the land is yours, free of charge. This land belongs to you. Now we have to find a very effective way of making you the owner of that. So we're going to do two-tiered. One is a home that is decent, getting rid of the ghettos, getting rid of the garrisons, getting rid of the squatter community, get all of those people into decent homes, decent communities with parks, playgrounds, daycare center, community center, digital library, all the things you need to succeed. And remember, you're paying for it. You're going to be helping to pay for all of this through your taxes and through your own productivity. But on top of that now, we're going to make sure that we have a beautiful, well-developed, massive organic farming structure in which all of you, whether you are Jamaican in Jamaica now or Jamaican overseas, you're going to get a chance to own a piece of this rock by being a shareholder in one of the many farming industrial complexes that we're going to have across the country. Next question. How will you handle the people that sell knockoff products? The UIC is very simple when it comes on to the laws of Jamaica. There's going to be two basic laws, and all the rest will be derivatives of this. Two basic laws. It begins with this philosophy that every human being has the right to be free. And so because of that, you must have the right to do whatever you want with your life, your liberty, or your property, provided you do not use force or fraud to infringe on the life, liberty, or property of others. So any kind of fraudulent activity by anyone at any level, be it the president or the pauper, anybody who engages in the use of force, aka violence, or the use of fraud, aka deception or corruption, will find that the laws are going to be extremely punitive. We're going to apply similar methodologies as Singapore to completely eliminate the culture of corruption, the culture of deception, and the culture of criminality from this country. Next question. We're way past our time now, so this will be the last one. Don Anderson says the JLP approval rating went from 27% in 2018 to 40% in 2019, 34% in 2020, and 33% in 2022. Meanwhile, Andrew Holness approval rating is 38%. Do you think this factual or rigged? Marva, I don't know if it's factual. When it comes on to statistics, you see, there's something I know. It says there are lies, damn lies, and then there are statistics. So I've learned to take statistics with a grain of salt. And unless I can check the data source, the population set, the method of calculation, whether it's the mean, mode, or median being used, I reserve an opinion and focus on the reality. And this is the reality right now in Jamaica. The vast majority of Jamaicans are not impressed with the electoral process, and therefore they stay away from it. The two major parties have been consistently losing market share in terms of the people who are willing to vote for them. And they have now reached a level where even their base are beginning to express doubts and moving away. The people of Jamaica have now seen clearly, after 78 years, with the help of the UIC, that these two parties have consistently and systematically failed them year after year after year after year. Only the most partisan or the most ignorant or the most unaware person would have any confidence at all in either of these two parties under any pretext. There's no basis for us to trust them. If they were not able to create a safe Jamaica, a clean Jamaica, an orderly Jamaica, with an economy where every Jamaican can live, earn, and retire with dignity in their own country, if they were not able to do that over 78 years at the wheels, it takes an enormous amount of faith for anybody to believe that they will do it anytime soon. And so, whatever these polls may say, I am confident that given the opportunity to communicate to all Jamaicans and put this in context for them, there'll be a massive wave that would vote them out in a jiffy. The level of ignorance in our country because of the media, which is controlled by the PSOJ oligarchy, they have failed to provide investigative journalism. They have failed to provide objective journalism. They have failed to make sure the Jamaican people know that there's a third political party duly registered in Jamaica. And day after day, night after night, they continue to deny the Jamaican people this knowledge. And they're hoping that they'll be able to do so for as long as possible until the next election, where they can cement those two parties and give the Jamaican people no hope, so that all we can have are the best and brightest migrating every year, and we build up a large concentration of those who are not the best and brightest, so they can continue to fool them, trick them, and manipulate them, and maintain power so they can control this country and rip us off year after year after year. But I'm counting on you. I'm depending on you to be the mouthpiece for the UIC in your corner, at work, at school, at church, foreign, yard, anywhere you're there. Tell everybody you know about the UIC. Share all of our contents with them. Let them know that the PSOJ oligarchy that controls the media and controls the two political parties, let them know that they do not want the Jamaican people to know about the UIC. They know we don't have no money. Them knows that we depend on the Jamaican people to donate. Them knows that the culture of politics in Jamaica is not built in the minds of people that they should donate and own the political party. So them know that. And them hoping to keep it that way so that you don't get involved at the level you need to, and that they can just provide the money that is necessary each and every time and get them to come out and fool you one more time with some other ridiculous promise, either free water, free electricity, free education, free healthcare, or some other novelty they're going to come with. Or they're going to give you 1.5 million tax-free, new threshold, or they're going to promise you that you're going to be able to sleep with your windows and doors open, or they're going to do some other grand thing. But at the end of the day, it will always result in your dollar sliding further down, the healthcare system remaining broken, the education system continuing to fail over 70% of our students, and the economy remaining stagnant, even when they tell you about massive growth. And when they tell you about the stock market is doing great, the fastest growing stock market in the world, all these foolishness, when they know that the people, the real people, not the people who have millions of dollars to play with on the stock market, not the people who have access to government contracts because of their political connections, not the people who are afraid to say anything because of their government jobs, but the people, the vast majority of Jamaicans who are going home to a house with a roof that they can't fix, to a door that is dropping off, to tile which has been there from the 1960s, to a bathroom that can't flush, to a plumbing problem that they can't fix, to an empty refrigerator that they can't fill, to a light bill that they can't pay. These are the vast majority of Jamaicans who are suffering at the bottom. And the worst part about it, some of them will still go vote for these two evil creatures. That is the part that boggles my mind. I really appreciate those who stop voting. Those who give up and say, "I'm not vote again." I appreciate them because at least them have the sense enough to say, it don't make sense to vote for any of this. And all I'm saying now, please have hope again. You in the 63%, please give yourself a fighting chance by voting for the UIC. But don't believe all we need is your vote, because that won't win it. The vote can only matter if we have candidates. And we'll only have candidates if we have money. So if we don't donate, so the candidates can drive around, so the candidates can go town by town, so we can print material, so we can create ads, so we can buy advertising space. If you don't get involved and do that, all your wish and hope for the UIC to succeed will be only in vain. We'll be there, we'll be cheerleading, we'll be jumping up and down and say, yeah, well, you should vote for us. But we won't have 228 councillor candidates because them not have no money. Them go to school every day as teachers, or nurses, or security guards, or plumber, or carpenter, and them are busy trying to feed them family. So if we not help them, if we not donate and help them to be able to put gas in the car and put food on the table so they can go out and represent us as candidates, if we not do that, they will not be on the ballot. The UIC will be a registered party without candidates, because without money, we can't have candidates. It's that simple. And I'm hoping that I have gotten that message through to you. There's no tooth fairy. There is no Santa Claus. There is no miraculous method of winning an election. The way to win election is to have candidates who have the resources to do the work in their community by connecting with the people, traveling around. I went to St. Anne the other day on one trip for the UIC, and it was $17,000. One trip for gas alone. And I had to stay over because there's no way for me to have gone there early in the morning to be a part of it. So I think the cost of the hotel, if I memory serve, I don't want to misquote, but I think we paid, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, but I think we paid about $11,000. My wife has the receipt. $11,000 to stay overnight and $17,000 in gas. And guess what? To drive up to there from St. Elizabeth, it meant 3 hours out of my work time. 3 hours that would spend making money for my family. That's 3 hours traveling to get there. And then 17,000 in gas and 11,000 in hotel costs. And then 3 hours traveling back out of my work day again. 6 hours of work time and roughly $26,000. You follow me? This is real, my friends. Let us stop thinking that politics is just this. You know why the politicians keep us not participating? Because when the PSOJ give them the $300 million, which they used to win the election, them and the PSOJ go and take back far more than $300 million from us. So while we are skimp and don't want to get involved in the politics, them a thief out, them a dig out where I. Them a thief in our school where kids are coming out poor and uneducated. Them a thief on the road mash up and we can't drive and it's mashing up our car. Them a thief with the police, can't get the equipment and salaries and compensation they need, so them not perform and crime a kill way. You understand? Them killing us with not managing our affairs properly, so our costs are skyrocketing and our income is stagnant. So if we want a better Jamaica, my fellow Jamaicans, we have to do better. We have to take charge of our life, take charge of this party, own this movement, and say enough is enough. We want good governance now. So, on the 22nd of this month, I'll be downtown at the Ward Theatre, and I'm inviting all of you to participate. If you can't come in person, donate. If you can come in person and you can donate and come in person. If you can't donate, but come in person, we want that too. All right? We want all of us to turn out on the 22nd. And if you can, on the 9th, I'll be at the Mandeville Courthouse. Come there to wear a blue shirt or get one of these. We'll have some available on location for you. But please, it's time, my fellow Jamaicans, for us to lead the greatest revolution in the history of this nation and for the first time, earn our independence, earn our freedom, fight for it, not with machetes, not with gun, but at the ballot box, with our time, with our talent, and with our treasure. Thank you, God bless you, and we talk again soon.